And now we're going to have some laughs because I love this guy. So Muhammad Hijab killed it on Piers Morgan. He definitely let Alan Dershowitz know what time it is. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is probably one of my favorite debates so far. Many of you told me about it, and here we are.
I think Hamas would do it again, would do October 7th again, because they think they've won. They've turned college and university students against Israel. They have...
People were already against you before October 7th. This is another arrogance of Alan Dershowitz. People may not have said that publicly, but people were already against the Israeli government prior to October 7th.
Solidify the United Nations opposition to Israel. They've divided Americans, particularly the Republican administrations in the past, from the current Democratic administration. So Hamas cannot be allowed to have a victory on growing out of October 7th any more than ISIS should have been allowed to have a victory going out of 9/11. So I think the answer is yes, a military defeat for Iran and its surrogates, and a peace process between Israel and Saudi Arabia with steps taken toward the recognition of a two-state solution, which is the only reasonable solution that will solve the problem. But remember that October 7th was stimulated by the desire to prevent Israel and Saudi Arabia from creating a peace process following up from the Abraham Accords. And unless that peace process continues, and unless Hamas is told, no, you failed, the world will not reward you for this, we're just going to see a continuation of the bloodshed in the Middle East, which does not serve the interests of the Palestinians nor the Israeli people.
Okay. Saudi Arabia is probably going to be like, don't bring us into this situation. You guys know we're trying to be Switzerland over up in here. We joined BRICS. We're buddies with Russia and China. We're also friends, kind of friends with the U.S. You know, sometimes we're fair weather friends and that kind of thing. Don't be trying to put us up in the middle of this. As I bet you that's how Saudi Arabia is thinking right now. You know, they're probably just like, don't bring us into your genocide. Don't bring us into your mess.
Hey, Mohammed Hijab, your response to that?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that wherever we see suffering, wherever we see death and destruction, especially of young people, assault, sexual assault, we see Dershowitz to the rescue, the former defense attorney of Jeffrey Epstein, a man himself accused of rape.
I knew we would get to that. I knew.
Yeah. And I saw this and I said, somebody finally said it. Yes. Why are you always there? Why do you still defend? And I know people will say, well, he's a lawyer. He's going to defend his client. He's still defending Jeffrey Epstein after it was proven he was guilty. He still defends it today. Why were you on that island, Alan Dershowitz? Were you getting some of these massages too? I remember the way that he responded to Kim Iverson when she was asking him questions about that. And he was like, well, yeah, I got a massage, but it wasn't from anyone young. It was an older woman named Olga or something like that. Kim never said it was a young woman. Not once. You added in that information. But this is a good question. Get him, Muhammad. Go, Muhammad, go.
I didn't give you permission to interrupt me. I didn't give you permission to interrupt me. I stayed quiet when you were talking.
Okay, here's what I would say.
I stayed quiet when you were talking.
Hang on. Here's what I would say.
To the merits.
I didn't give you permission.
Listen, Muhammad, attacking a lawyer for defending people is a stupid argument.
Well, right? I'm not making an argument yet.
Well, you're just using that.
I'm not making an argument.
Attack straight off the top.
Has he got leverage on you?
No, he's a brilliant lawyer. I saw
your picture with Maxwell. He's got leverage on you.
He's a brilliant lawyer.
Are you saying that because he's got leverage on you?
I met Ghislaine Maxwell for 5 minutes at a book launch.
You look very happy with her.
Well, I didn't know anything about her at the time, other than she was the daughter of the man that...
We're talking about the biggest sexual scandal in the last 100 years.
Who I never met Jeffrey Epstein or ever knew him. Alan Dershowitz was wrongly accused of various things in relation to Jeffrey Epstein.
How do you know it's wrongly?
Because they've all been...
Why are you defending him?
They all turned out to be nonsense.
Oh, I love this guy. I told you. And thank you guys for sending this one to me because I love this guy. He's like, how do you know? Why are you defending him? And these are good questions. Why is Piers Morgan so quick to defend Alan Dershowitz and throw everybody else who's pro-Palestinian under the bus? And I told you about the relationship between Rupert Murdoch and Piers Morgan. Loki called it out publicly to his face on his show. And it's true. It's like, why would you leave that out, Piers Morgan? Why would you leave it out that Rupert Murdoch, who was your boss, which is where Uncensored, this TV show came from Talk TV, and you split it off to do your own thing, but you were still a part of some of Rupert Murdoch's subsidiaries, which a lot of people don't understand. So Piers Morgan's show was not independent. Why would you leave that out and not let people know when you're having these Israel-Gaza debates that Rupert Murdoch had donated money to Benjamin Netanyahu? I think that's something that people would need to know. Now you're defending this clown.
Since you won a court case about it.
Why are you not looking at me when I'm speaking to you?
Well, I can turn to you, but there are three of us involved in this.
Yeah, you're speaking to me, so
okay, let me make things clear. Yeah. I never met Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. I met Ghislaine Maxwell for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you look very happy in that picture.
Okay, if you want to use that as an ad hominem attack
why
on me,
why are you defending him?
Hang on. A picture taken in 2013.
He spoke for 3 minutes. I spoke for 20 seconds.
I'm defending him because your first attack on him is to attack him as a lawyer because he defends bad people.
That's fine.
Here's a little secret for you, Mohammed.
All
lawyers do that.
No, but hold on. We're not talking about bad people. We're talking about, excuse me. You've had enough speaking. I'm talking about a person who, after the fact, said that he was proud to defend him after the allegations come out. You still want to do you condemn Dershowitz?
For what?
For defending Epstein.
I have defended.
And being proud.
So now you get that question, Piers Morgan. Now you get the question, do you condemn something? Oh,
I have defending Epstein.
It's not for me to defend
that. All I can tell you is in the world.
Okay, Alan, you defend yourself.
No, why should he defend himself? I haven't even spoken for 20 seconds.
Alan can defend himself.
Well, let me speak for more than 20 seconds. I haven't even made my point yet.
I helped to defend Bill Clinton. I've helped to defend some of the finest people in the world, and I've also helped to defend some of the worst.
I helped defend Nelson Mandela. I helped defend Bill Clinton. And after Bill Clinton, he says, I helped defend some of the finest people in the world. I don't think Bill Clinton is some of the finest people in the world. Wasn't Bill Clinton on that island too? Wasn't Bill Clinton on that island too, Alan? Wasn't he there too? What are you talking?
He was not proud of defending John Lennon in the same way as he announced that he was proud of defending Epstein.
What's this got to do with Israel?
This has got to do with the fact that this man, the credibility of this man is on the line. He defends Israel on the one hand, and on the other hand, he defends Epstein. I think the public should know this.
Do you want me to play? Do you want me to play the clips?
He's proud of it.
Mohammed, do you want me to play the clips of you
and I don't know,
do the rounds on social media saying some very inflammatory things? Do you want me to?
Why are you not looking at me?
Because I'm looking at the three of us.
I'm right here.
You can turn to me, then the viewers see me and you
look at me man to man.
Fine.
Look at me man to man. Look at my eyes.
Yes, it's called an aesthetic thing for videos.
Okay, now the first thing I wanted to say was that this man's credibility is something which is shocking. That is we're even entertaining.
What do you base it on?
On the fact that he actually defended Epstein, and after the fact, he said he was proud of it. He was in Epstein's vicinity. He had a massage in his vicinity. This is the kind of person that we're having on the show defending Israel. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing is, in the first interaction where me and you were talking about October the 7th, we spent about 3 or 4 minutes actually talking about sexual assault allegations, if you remember that. And actually here, what we have is Israeli soldiers like Mir from Unit 100, and that's on The Guardian, it's on Sky News, it's on all these kinds of platforms, coming out, and there's videographic evidence of him raping another man. I haven't heard condemnation from you, and I don't expect to hear it from him who defended Epstein. Well, this shows you the bias in the coverage for a year, where we know the ICJ have said that there's a plausible genocide.
You haven't been watching much.
No, let me finish here, and let me add in really quick, because Piers is getting pissed because he's taking it out on him as well, as he should, because it's true. We have all seen it happen. When it comes to the sexual assault towards Israelis on October 7th, Piers Morgan was still repeating that lie that there was no evidence, and that has been debunked by multiple news outlets. Multiple news, even corporate media have debunked that. And he was still repeating that lie, along with some of the politicians. Kamala Harris is doing the same thing, et cetera, right? But when there was video evidence that showed that IDF soldiers were sexually assaulting Palestinians in the Palestinian detention center. Piers Morgan, you never hear him talk about that. You never hear him mention what the IDF soldiers have done to the Palestinian people. He never talks about, and there was evidence, and he won't mention it. He just continues to mention what happened to Israelis on October 7th, but will never mention what happened to Palestinians who have been sexually assaulted, and it is on video and there's evidence for it. So he is correct when he talks about the bias of that show.
Sorry.
I think I have.
No, you haven't.
Have you spoken about me?
You're talking complete bullshit.
Okay, tell me why.
Right?
Tell me why.
Because A, I did condemn what you've just talked about in a previous debate.
Good.
Right?
Dershowitz, do you condemn it?
Yes, of course. I condemn any rape of anybody and any assault on anybody who's in captivity.
And you also condemn the right of rape protest that took place in Israel. And you acknowledge that there's a problem in Israel with this.
Place, they will be investigated. They will be fully investigated. They will be court-martialed.
Do you acknowledge that there's a problem in Israeli society?
If anybody is convicted of that, they deserve their punishment.
Do you acknowledge that there's a problem in
What about the problem with Hamas raping women?
I have no compunction.
On October the 7th.
So there you go. So you see what I was telling you? So why is it whenever there's assault that's brought up that Israel has done, why don't they really want to talk about that? And by the way, Piers Morgan doesn't bring that up on his own. It's usually a guest that will bring that up, and then he'll have to respond to it. But Piers Morgan, for the most part, he's always bringing up what happened on October 7th, but which no evidence of this, by the way. But yet there's evidence of Palestinians that have been sexually assaulted that is video recorded, but you'll never want to bring it up. So he's pissed now. So now he's going to, snap back at Muhammad and say, what about October 7th?
I have no compunction condemning Hamas for anything that they've done. You've said that. You've asked me before, and I've told you before. I have no moral scruple. Neither do the majority of the Muslim world. I tell you now, anything that Hamas has done, we have condemned in the first instance. But we're not seeing the same level of coverage with Hamas as we are seeing with these people that are shoving rods up people's ass and raping people on videographic evidence. And you have 3,000 people, you talk about the hostages, you've got 3,000 people in essentially captivity, according to Human Rights Watch and B'Tselem, who are prisoners of war of Israel. And we're spending a fraction of the time speaking about them as compared to speaking about the hostages. This shows you the inherent bias.
There's no comparison. There's no comparison between innocent hostages who did nothing wrong and people who are being charged with criminal offenses.
They're not charged with criminal offenses. That's why you're meant to know better. You're meant to know better than that.
But they are charged with security offenses. But you
They're not charged with criminal offenses.
Compare.
They are arrested without charge.
You can't compare a 3-year-old baby.
They're not charged with criminal offenses.
Don't shout over each other. We can't hear the answer.
He's lying to them.
He's correct. A lot of times they're not actually charged. And this is something, I highly encourage you to watch Abby Martin's documentary if you haven't had a chance to do so. That documentary was released prior to October 7th. So if you haven't seen it, please watch it, because this is a common issue that the IDF has done before, where they will arrest Palestinians and they don't even have to be convicted of a charge. It's not like they arrest them and they await trial, they go to court, etc. They just arrest them and they throw them into the prisons. They've done this with Palestinian children as well. They have gone into Palestinian homes and they've taken people out of the home. Even if it wasn't the person they came there looking for, they will just take someone in that person's place and throw them into the prisons.
Allow him to respond
to somebody who's a member of Hamas.
Say that.
Sorry,
again.
Adam, we couldn't hear because he was shouting.
I was shouting. Say it
Alan,
again.
he says the 3,000.
You can't compare
Alan, he says the
3-year-old baby.
Alan, just to be clear, he said the 3,000 people he's talking about were all arrested without charge, and therefore they've not been charged with crimes. Your response to that?
Well, if they were, they should be released. Nobody should be arrested without charge. If you're held for a security reason,
pathetic.
I will say what I want. It's uncensored. Good boy.
Let me finish, please. Let me make my point.
Try and have a proper debate.
I'll say what I like.
Can I make my point? Let me make my point. Great Britain confined tens of thousands of people without charges during the Second World War.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Did the same.
Two wrongs don't make a right. Let's talk about what Hitler done. Let's talk about what Hitler done.
Let me make my point. I'm opposed to that. I wrote an article against
Good boy.
administrative detention. But you
Good.
can't compare that, no
Good.
matter how
Can you
bad
stop
it
this,
is.
Mohammed? It's
You
very
can't
very
compare it
tedious already.
to 3-year-olds being
Debating.
kidnapped, to people
listening to his
being
points.
raped and murdered. You can't compare what happened on October 7th to what Israel has done
Yes, you
in
can't,
terms
because
of
on the one
security
hand, you've
prisoners.
got
There's
30,000
no
people, on the other hand,
comparison
you've got
at
about
all.
100.
And stop
That's 30
interrupting me.
times.
So here's Alan Dershowitz. So Alan Dershowitz just told you that you can't compare the sexual assault that Israel has done to what they're saying Hamas has done. Is this mofo really trying to lesser of two evils sexual assault? Is that really what he's trying to do? Did anybody else catch that? What did you do on that island, Alan? What you do on Jeffrey Epstein's island? This man is wild.
Times more. That's 30 times more. If you want us to take you seriously, if you want us to take this coverage seriously, if you want us to take Western media seriously, then let's, for God's sake, talk about proportionality as your favorite word. We're talking about 30,000 people detained in prisons on the one hand, and 100 people who are hostages. And yet we have managed somehow to spend way more time proportionally.
You said 3,000 a minute ago. Which one is it? 3,000?
Sorry, 3,000. 3,000.
That's not
corrected.
30,000.
Not 30.
Okay, well,
3,000.
get your numbers right if you're going to make that claim.
Okay, I misspoke.
You exaggerated
Not a problem.
10 times.
Not a problem. He spoke about Iran. Let me ask you a question
I'll
about
tell you what, let me ask the question.
Sure, go
and
ahead.
you guys try and
Go
debate
ahead.
it.
Go ahead.
At the moment, Alan Dershowitz is being very civilized in the way he's debating.
I'm sure you're going to say that.
You're just making
He might have
ad hominem
leverage on you.
attacks and shouting all
He's
the
your
time.
friend.
No one can understand it when you
Have you
shout
met him
all the time.
before?
I know Alan well.
Oh, you know him well.
I respect him very much.
There it is. He knows Alan well and he respects him. And he said that Alan's being civilized. Like, I'm sorry, but there has been a number of times when Alan's come on that show and he shouted over people. And also when Rabbi Shmuley has come on to Piers Morgan's show and he shouted over people. He wasn't acting civilized. I don't remember Piers jumping in and trying to tell him to stop. Maybe that's his buddy too. I know Alan very well. He's my friend.
Yes, you do.
He's one of America's top lawyers.
He's top lawyers.
Yeah, he is.
And you're an unbiased person here on Central.
An unbiased person about Alan Dershowitz. Why?
Does he have leverage on you, Piers Morgan?
There's no leverage on me, no.
You've got a picture with Maxwell.
Yes, with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Did you go to the island?
No, I've never been to the island. I've never met Jeffrey Epstein.
Be honest.
I never spent more than 5 minutes with
Be
Ghislaine
honest.
Maxwell. I've answered you. So what part of that wants to...
Do you condemn him being on the island? He's your good friend.
You can ask
No, ask him to
Dershowitz
condemn him.
about Jeffrey Epstein.
You had a massage.
He represented him.
He said he didn't take his shorts off.
Do you know what?
That's
None of
that's
this
what
has
he
got
said.
anything to do with Israel.
He said he didn't take his shorts off when he was getting a
Can you
massage.
please, Mohammed.
Why is this uncomfortable?
It's nothing to do with the debate.
He didn't take his shorts off, but he's got his pants down now, hasn't he?
Can you stop it?
Why?
What's the point?
Why? He
Because
defended one of
actually-
the most obnoxious people in the last 100 years. Why should I
Because
stop it?
actually what is going on right
should I
now
stop it?
in the Middle East is incredibly important.
Yes, and you have this man who's...
You are trivializing that. Well, if you didn't want to do a debate, don't agree to do it.
Who said I'm not going to do a debate? I'm saying this person
So
who's
come on and
defending
make
Israel...
stupid ad hominem attacks is pathetic.
Oh, okay. All right. Is your good friend, you want to defend him so much?
What are you talking about?
You're defending him.
Huh?
You're defending him. You're defending a monster. A pervert. An old pervert.
He's not a pervert or a monster.
Why is he not? He knew Epstein. And for us, there's good inference.
Why are you doing this, Mohammed?
Why not?
Because it's pointless. You may get a few
Okay,
clicks
ask
on
your questions.
You might get a
Ask
few
your
clicks
questions.
on it. So what?
It's not.
Ask your questions.
Let me be very clear. It's not pointless. He just called me a pervert. He will be sued now
Yeah, that's
for defamation, and
It's
we will be
defamation.
able
It's
to
honest
resolve this
opinion. In the
in a
UK, we have
court of
different,
law. I
defamation
guarantee you that he will be sued.
In
for
my
calling me
understanding, you are a pervert
The woman
because
who
you are
falsely
acquainted with
accused
Jeffrey
me
Epstein.
has now withdrawn her
Sure, I've got my own defamation
accusation
cases. I know the
and
law very well
acknowledged
here.
that
You
she
can't
may
threaten
have
me. You can't
confused me
threaten
with
me. I know the
somebody
law very
else.
well.
And
I
calling me
consider
a
you to be a
pervert
pervert
will
because of your
result
connection with
in
Jeffrey
a
Epstein.
defamation lawsuit
Sure,
in
I'm
an
ready for
American
it.
court
I'm
and in a
ready.
British
I'm ready
court.
for the
I
lawsuit.
assure you of that.
I believe
Let's
you
move
are
on to
old
Israel
pervert.
now.
Why don't we move
We'll
on to the
resolve
debate?
this in
You're an old
court.
pervert.
Let's move on
You're
to
an old pervert.
Israel.
So that is epic there, you guys. And this guy is so freaking awesome. Please, when you get a chance, watch the full interview. Piers is so mad. Can we give him a clap? Can we give Muhammad Hijab? Can we give him a little dance? Let's give him some music. Hey, hey. Dance with me. Dance with me. All right. We had to give him his flowers. Man, I'm telling you, when you guys got the time, try to watch the whole interview. But I did want to cover that part because that was the first time I see somebody like really take off the gloves and go after Piers Morgan. So that had to be done.